In this video, we're going to be taking a look on pages Access 14 and 15, in which we're going to be entering in data. Now, your skill in navigating and entering new records is key to your success with a relational database. Now, you can use many techniques to navigate through the records in the table's datasheet, in which if you would take a look on page Access 15, you would see that there is on table A-5, that there are many different keyboard shortcuts to move to different records. Now, earlier we had used our arrow keys or our tab key as well. Now, if you would use your tab, enter, or your arrow key to the right, that's going to move to the next field of the current record. If you would use the keyboard combination of shift and tab, or if you would hit the left arrow key, that's going to move you to the previous field of the current record. If you hit the home key on your keyboard, that's going to move you to the first field of the current record. Or if you hit the end key, that's going to move you to the last field of the current record. Hitting Control Home or your F5 key will move you to the first field of the first record on your table. Hitting Control End will move you to the last field of the last record. And hitting up or down will keep you in the current field, but will move you to either the previous record if it's up or to the next record if it is down. So if we take a look now at step 1 on page Access 14, it tells us that we want to double click the Customers table in the navigation pane. So we're going to open up our Customers table here, and it tells us that we want to press Tab key 3 times. So once we hit our Tab key, that's going to move us to our phone number. And then it tells us that we can press our Enter key 3 times. And of course, when our customer table reopens, the comments data sheets, sub-data sheets have all been collapsed. So whenever you close it out, everything always collapses. Now, of course, both the Tab and Enter keys move the focus to the next field. So as you notice, when we move to the Tab, it moves us to the right. When you hit the Enter key, it also moves us to the right. And of course, the focus refers to which data you would edit if you started typing. Now, when you navigate to the last field of the record, either by pressing Tab or Enter, it advances to the focus to the first field of the next record. Now, you can also use the Next Record and Previous Record navigation buttons, and of course, that's down on the bottom of your table here. And of course, you see right now it tells us that we have 3 records, and of course you could use these buttons here to click from next record to previous record. That's on there as well. Now, the current record text box on the navigation bar tells you that the number of the current record as well as the total number of records in the data sheet. So in this case, it's very easy to see that we have 3, but in a large number that's on there, this would be some important information to take a look down at the bottom and say, hey, I'm on record 51 of 2,472. Next, on step 2, it tells us that we want to click the first name field on the 4th record to position the insertion point to enter in a new record. So anytime you want to input in a new record, you can always go down to the last record line, which is always going to be your new one on there, to input in some information. Now, also, you could click as well the new record button or the new or blank record button. So if I'm up here, down next to my navigation buttons, there is a button that's right down here, if you see my mouse pointer here, where it says new blank record. I can point to that, and that will take me down as well to the last line of my table. So I want to make sure that I'm now in the first name field on this 4th record on there to make sure that my insertion point is where I can input in a new record. Now, you enter new records at the end of the data sheet. Now, you will learn how to sort and reorder records later on. Now, a complete list of navigation keystrokes, once again, are on page Access 15, and that's in table A5. Now, of course, once again, if you ended up in Customer ID field, the auto number field, just press Tab, and that will get you to the first name field. On step 3, it tells us at the end of the data sheet, you want to input in the 3 records as shown in figure A-15 on there. Now, when you do this, notice a few things. That when you start typing, so say for an example, the first one, and start off with line number 4, which is Renata. It's Renata Champ, yes, Renata Champ on there. When you do this, notice that over here on the record selector, that there's a little pencil, and that is the edit record symbol. And that appears to the left of the record you are currently editing. Now, when you move to a different record, Access will save the data. Therefore, Access never prompts you to save the data because it performs that task automatically. Now, saving the data automatically allows Access database to be multi-user databases, which means that the more than one person can enter and edit data in the same database at the same time period. Now, your customer ID values might differ from the ones that you see in record or in the figure A15. And because that customer ID field is an auto number field, Access will automatically enter the next consecutive number into the field as it creates the record. Now, if you delete a record or you're interrupted when entering a record, Access discards the value in the auto number field and does not reuse it. Therefore, auto number fields do not represent the number of records in your table. Instead, they provide a unique value per record similar to check numbers. So as we're entering our information on there, just make sure that you are verifying and checking the spelling of names on there, because it's very important, because somebody always wants to have their name spelled correctly. And just input in the information that you see on table A-15. So we can just input the names of 4-1-1981 as the birth date, and we can hit our tab key to go on down to the next line. And then we're going to put in here Wilbur, Shadowfly, and different phone number here. And of course, the more that you get used to working with Access, the quicker that you will become in inputting in this information. And finally, we have Oscar Lee, which is phone number 6666. Not a good phone number to have. 777-8888. And then finally, the birth date is 6/1/1983. And of course, there once again is our edit record symbol that's on there as well. Now, of course, a quick tip as well: Access databases that are multi-user with one important limitation. 2 users cannot edit the same record at the same time. Now, if that does happen on there, and if they try to happen, a message will pop up and explains to the second user that they must wait until the first user is complete before they continue on to edit that record that's on there. So that's the only limitation that's on there, is that, if we were trying to figure out with this next record here, if I left my record like this and where the edit record symbol is still there, somebody couldn't edit record number 6 for Oscar Lee until I move on to the next line or to move to another record that's on there. So that's one limitation of Access. Now, on the bottom of page Access 14 talks a little bit about changing from navigation mode to edit mode. That's on there. And of course, it tells us that if you navigate to another area of a data sheet by clicking with the mouse pointer, and if I do that on here, instead of pressing tab or enter, you change from navigation mode into edit mode. Now, in edit mode on here, so if I would like move here on there, Access assumes that you're trying to make changes to the current field value. So keystrokes such as Control N, Control Home, left and right, move the insertion point within the field. So if I would move left and right now, after I clicked away from this record, notice that my insertion point is moving within the field and instead of to the next fields that's on there. Now, if I want to return to the navigation mode, I can always press my tab key or my enter key, which moves the focus to the next field. Now I can use my arrow keys to move and navigate around through my table. And of course, as well, we know that the cloud is quickly becoming something that's very popular. And of course, you can use Access on the cloud. And of course, using SkyDrive, which is now known as OneDrive from Microsoft, it's a free service where you can store files in the cloud and retrieve them anytime you are connected to the internet. Now, saving your files to the SkyDrive or OneDrive is one example of cloud computing, which means that you are using an internet resource to complete your work. And you can find more information on this if you take a look at the appendix in the textbook, which talks about working in the cloud, which that will be up in the content area a little bit later on. And that concludes the information that's on pages Access 14 and 15 about entering data. And in our next video, we're going to be talking about editing data. So go ahead and leave up your data sheet for customers or your table. We're going to be using that in the next video, so you are ready to move on to that next video.